Hi, I'm Will, and in this video I'm going to take you through setting up a Next.js application from scratch. Now this is a beginner video aimed at people that want to get it installed and set up so they can go on and create their own web applications. Now if you find this video interesting, hit that like and subscribe button, but without further delay, let's go. Okay, there's a few things you need before we can start. First up is the operating system. I'm using Mac OS. You don't have to use Mac OS. If you've got a Windows or Linux operating system, that's fine. There may be some small differences, like with the command line and shell. Next up is the web browser. I'm using Google Chrome. You don't have to use Google Chrome. There's other ones out there like Safari, but bear in mind there are differences between different browsers. They render content differently, they support different technologies, so keep that in mind. And finally we come on to the IDE or code editor. I'm going to be using VS Code. Again, use what you're familiar with, but there may be some differences. If you need any help, drop a comment below. Right, that's it. That's all we need so far. Let's get going. Okay, so React's going to be our tool of choice. So let's head over to react.dev, learn React, installation, start new React project. And here we can see a list of different frameworks for React. So the idea behind a framework is that it gets you bootstrapped. So the scaffolding behind the project is done for you to make it much faster to get going. Now at the top of this list is Next.js, and that's what we're going to be using. So let's click on Next.js here. Okay, we're on Next.js's website. Let's hit get started, installation, and it's got a few system requirements. One of which is to have Node.js 16.14 or later at the time of recording this. The other is to have the correct operating system to run it, so Mac OS, Windows, Linux, one of those operating systems. Now, you can go onto Node's website and simply download Node. That's the easiest option. The other option, it's not the only option, but it's an option that I like, is to use something called Node Version Manager, which allows you to switch between different versions of Node for different projects. So as you accumulate different projects, some of them will have different requirements, and as time passes, newer versions come out. So you may want to switch between different versions of Node without having to go to the website to re-download and install each time. So this is to save time. You don't have to use this. This is what I'm going to be using, but it's just nice to highlight it. If you see me typing in the command, then if you're not using it, you know not to use those commands. So I'm not going to go through the installation process here, but if you're happy and you're comfortable using that, feel free. And if you need help with installing this, drop me a comment. We can look at that. Okay, so I've jumped into VS Code. You can use whatever code editor or IDE that you feel comfortable with. I'm using VS Code. May make it easier to use the same. So I'm going to open up a folder. I'm going to go up to File, Open Folder, and choose a folder that I want this project to live in. I've chosen one called Tutorial. You can see at the top left. Next up, I want to make sure that I've got the correct version of Node. So I'm going to open up the terminal and I'm going to put in npm install. So if you've just downloaded Node off of the website and you've got the latest version, the likelihood is you don't need to do this. This is just for me who uses a tool to switch between different versions of Node. So if I hit enter, right, so I've switched to Node LTS 16, which is needed for the current version of Next that we're going to be using. Okay, next up we're going to install Next.js. So there's a command on the website that tells you how to install it. And we're going to do something like that. Not exactly the same. So on the website, it will tell you to put in latest here. Now, that's cool, but this video is going out at a certain time, and as time goes by, the versions may change. So what I'm going to do is put in a specific version that I want us to use, which is 13.4.19, and that's the current latest version at recording. So I'm going to hit enter. It's going to ask for a name. I'm going to call it tutorial. All of the other options I'm just going to leave as default and keep hitting enter. You can customize it more so if you like. And now it's going to install a project. So it's going to take a little bit of time. Okay, that's installed. So that's created a folder called tutorial inside of this current folder. So what I would now do is open folder and then select that folder so we go into our project. Okay, I've opened the newly created folder that it's just created, which is creatively named tutorial as well. So not to confuse, this one's inside of the other. This project next, so if we get the terminal back up again, so terminal, new terminal. Now it's installed everything, but what we want to do is make sure that all of the dependencies are there and they're logged at the certain version that we've downloaded. So if we hit yarn, now the thing about yarn is this is just one package manager. There's another one called npm and there's probably countless others too. This is just the one that I'm using. You can, if I hit enter, right, this, okay. Now this is because I did not do nvm install. So I don't have the correct version of Node running here, and this is the error that you'll get. If I hit nvm install and gallium, there we go. So I switch to the latest version of nvm that we want. Try not to hit the same command again. Okay, let's try yarn. Right, so what this is doing is it's going to try and download all of the dependencies for our project. It may have already installed a lot of the dependencies, but what it is missing is a yarn log file. And the log file says, hey look, these are all of the dependencies that we've got and the particular versions that they're at. Now if you're working in a team, that's quite important because what you want to do is try and stay in sync as much as possible. So if any of those dependencies are out of sync, that can cause issues. This could take a moment. Okay, that's generated a yarn lock file. So if we look at that, it's got all of the versions of the dependencies inside of the package JSON file. And if you share this with someone else, they'll get the exact same versions because it's going to look at this, they'll run yarn and they'll get all of the same stuff that you've got synced, you're aligned so that there's no weirdness between different development machines. Okay, so the next thing is highly recommended, but it's very much optional, and that's to use a tool called Git. If you haven't got Git installed on your machine already, I highly recommend it if you do development work. Again, if you need help with that, then drop a comment. But Git is something that is called version control. So it's a bit like saving things down in particular versions. Not quite saving, but it's very much like it. And you can revert back to different versions, or you can have different branches, so different versions that differ from your main product, and then you can mix and match if you need to. So if I go to source control and under changes, so this is the changes that we've just added, and we hit the little plus icon, that adds it to stage changes. Then if I go up here, I can type in a message and commit that. So it adds it to our log of changes, and then we could revert back if we wanted to. That is the equivalent of going git add on the command line and then git commit. I'm not going to go into those, but this is the easy lazy man's version. So I'm going to do the easy lazy man version just because it saves a little bit of typing, and who wouldn't like to save some typing? Okay, so I'm going to hit commit. Now, to look at the commit that we've just added, what we can do is go git log, and then we can see here we've got a version called deps, which is what we've just put in. But Next.js, upon creating the application, has given us an initial commit right here. So that's all of the good stuff already saved down for us. So we don't need to initialize git. There's a command for that separately. And then we can just simply add onto it all of the versions that we need to sort of save down and track progress. Okay, finally, we want to make sure that Next.js is running, it's working. We want to make sure that we've got it started so we can start doing our own thing. So if I put in yarn dev, here it's starting a development server and it's saying this is at localhost, your loopback address. So that's just on your machine at port 3000. Under the README, it tells you how to do that there, just in case you don't want to use yarn. So if I copy this, go over to the web browser, place that in. Then you should have a screen like this. So this is the successful installation screen by Next.js. So this is the default screen. You can start changing stuff in the application, get rid of this and put your own stuff in there. So this tells us that everything is okay to get going with. And that's it, we can start developing. Now, if you've got any other different screens or you've got any problems, please drop me a comment. I can try and help out. But this ultimately is where you want to be at this stage. This is the setup complete. Okay, that's it. The installation of Next.js is done. So that's the setup done. From here, you can go on and create your own web applications. If you'd like to get some ideas on what you can then do with Next.js, hit the comments and give me some ideas for content and I'll try and make them happen. Now, if you had any other sort of questions, queries or errors or anything else, then again, hit the comments. If you liked it, then hit the like button and hit the subscribe button to see more of this kind of content. But until next time, never glitch. See you later.